you very much. Everybody, I've got 10 minutes. I've been told I have to be very clear that I've only got 10 minutes. I've got a cold, so at least one of those 10 minutes will be taken up with me coughing. I apologise for that. Anyway, what I'm talking about here is what I'm telling you about is a Roman motto that is prominent in the exhibition, the fantastic exhibition that's currently on here, The Last Supper in Pompeii. It is normally translated, as you can see presented there, seize the day, Carpe Diem in Latin. And I think it's probably, as such, a bit of a cliche. Seize the day is a rather flat and uninteresting turn of phrase. So what I'm about here, whether I'll succeed or not, who knows, but whether I'll do it in 10 minutes is another matter as well. But what I'm designing myself to do here is explain what a rich turn of phrase Carpe Diem actually is, and perhaps also in the process of making that case, introducing you to some aspects of the culture that it came from. First, though, it of course came from a poem, and if you're frightened by large chunks of Latin, relax. There'll be a translation in a second, which I'll concentrate upon. But as you can see there, Carpe Diem is just one part, 2 words of a longer poem, not an enormous poem, but a longer poem written by the poet Horace in a collection of lyric poems that we know as his odes. 4 books in total, the first collection, 3 books. A translation, though, which I shall read, but in the process of reading it, I'll just sort of draw out some of the things that always need to be explained when you're reading Latin poems of this kind, or any poems that are not from a very sort of familiar culture. So, please don't ask Leukonoi. The gods do not wish it known. Leukonoi, the name of a woman, a Greek name, and there might be a suggestion of the role of something like a courtesan associated with that name. What end have they given? Do not ask what end they have given to me or to you, and don't dabble with Babylonian calculations. Leukonoi is interested in horoscopes. Yeah, and horoscopes are associated, even by the Romans, with Babylon. How much better to accept whatever comes, whether Jupiter grants us more winters or this is our last, which is now wearying the Tyrrhenian sea on the pumice rocks opposing it. Subtle suggestions of where we are geographically there. Pumice rocks and Tyrrhenian sea suggests that we're on the Bay of Naples. If we are in the Bay of Naples, we are relaxing, because that's what Romans do on the Bay of Naples. We are partying. Probably, actually, if we're on the Bay of Naples. Be wise, strain the wine, and since time is short, cut back extended hope. There's wine involved there too. Now, I'm going to leave the bit to the end, because that's the critical bit, of course, but even thus far, we've got a pretty typical lyric situation, a pretty typical situation from a poem from Horace's Odes. And all I'd say at this point is where there is wine, where there is lyric, where there are thoughts of one's mortality, and there are all those things here, there is also something that I shall delicately leave in Latin in the air too. Amor, or maybe Venus, is in the air. You can probably work that out. Now, what we are concerned with specifically, though, is the end. While we speak, envious time will have flown. Pluck the day is my translation, trusting as little as possible in tomorrow. Now, carpe diem is the Latin expression. Carpe is the verb, and that's the bit with the meaning that needs to be teased out. Diem, a word for day. So something the day. The verb carpe or carpo can mean things like harvest or reap. It can't really mean seize very easily, but it can mean harvest or reap, something like that. I think, though, it works much better if we take it here in a meaning it definitely has, which is describing what you do with fruit. You pluck a piece of fruit. And I think as such, like an apple, for example, and I think as such, that is a very, very beautiful, very succinct image because it makes of the day an apple or maybe a pomegranate, something that must be plucked and eaten while you can. Because if you don't seize it now, pluck it now, it'll be spoiled. Okay, however, I've hinted at this already. Fruit throughout history have been erotic images, I'm afraid to say. And Horace, thus, in encouraging Leuconoe to join him in a particular activity, is not talking about tiddlywinks. There are ways in which Leuconoe can fulfill the richness of the day, and I'll leave those to your imagination. Okay, I'll just skip ahead here. Horace is a miniaturist. He's a verbal artist working on tiny, tiny canvases. His great talent is to squeeze all the meaning that he can squeeze out of individual words by combination with other words, by placement within these small poetic canvases that he works with. As a consequence, Horace can give us lots and lots of more mottos. And I've selected just a few more, with the idea that they might be useful ones for a Friday night. So, nunc est bibendum, now is the time to drink. Aureum mediocritas, though, the golden mean, which we should also always hold to. When we are dead, pulvis et umbra sumus, we are dust and shade. And the most important one, nil, particularly in Oxford on a Friday night, nil desperandum, there is no need to despair. Now, just to end, if this will load, and it's not going to, is it? Okay, I encourage you to look at the beautiful film that there is of the exhibition, and particularly the first few seconds of it. It says, "Seize the day." And there are lots of lovely images of pomegranates being sliced and wine being poured. And it's too late, they didn't consult me, unfortunately, but it would have been beautiful if the proper sense of Carpe Diem had been at the head of the thing, because what is the proper sense? Okay. Pluck the day is exactly what this beautiful exhibition is all about. Thank you very much.